That lack of controlling the customer service was a real issue.
This is your number one priority.
It eliminates the robocalls.
We want to make them as efficient as possible.
No matter what, you can't be perfect. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show. Today is definitely a hot topic, something that applies to everyone, whether you're in the laundromat industry or even if you're not. Customer service. Today, we're going to explain how we handle customer service, how we do it easily and affordably.
Yeah, we're going to talk about what we've learned over the years because we've been at this for 14, 15 years. But, I think a lot of people just throw customer service into this category of this blasé thing that we kind of have to do. And there was a time where we did that. And nowadays we take this very, very seriously. Everything from our training to investments that we make in technology and different tools to provide the highest level of customer service possible. Obviously, we focus on our operations and making sure that we don't make mistakes and machines don't break down, and we do maintenance on our machines, and even our website is intuitive and all these different things. But at the end of the day, you also have to accept the fact on the other side of the business is going to be that your team is never going to be perfect, and you're always going to make mistakes. And so what happens when those processes break down? How are those handled? And we're not here to tell you that we're the only game in town or that we have all the answers. I'm sure you guys have some great ideas too, but these are things we've learned over 14, 15 years in the business. So as usual, we're just going to kind of share our story, what we do, how we do it, and kind of the thought process behind it. And we'll go from there. Hopefully it'll give you some value.
All right, so let's get into how we do our customer service. We're going to break it into three kind of categories of customer service. First, we're going to start with the in-house customer. So self-service or even drop-off laundry. They're in your face. You're actually dealing with them person to person. Then we're going to go into what about the phone calls? And then finally, because we do it a little bit differently, how we handle our delivery customer service. So let's start off with in-person customer service. Now, we feel that it is best to have a laundromat fully attended. Now, I will say, though, we do have one location that's open 24 hours, and it is not attended overnight. But other than that, during the day, from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m., all of our laundromats are attended. And customer service is one of the key attributes we look at when we're hiring attendants, and it's a key part of their training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually, to give it a little bit further, when we train people, I'll break this down very super quickly. When we train first of all, when we interview a new attendant, their people skills, their problem solving skills, their emotional maturity. Obviously, we're trying to guess this as quickly as possible in a short interview, but those are the main things we're looking for. We're not as interested if they have laundry experience, and we love to see that they have retail experience, and we love to see that they have people skills. We love to see that they enjoy helping others. They get that internal gratification out of helping and serving other people. These are attributes that not everyone has naturally, but usually when they do, they kind of light up. They'll tell you, oh, I'm a people person and I love to help others, and they'll kind of light up versus someone that's more introverted and maybe kind of hides behind the scenes and is awkward regarding those things. So that's the first thing we do when we're kind of interviewing and training. Now, in the training process, our attendants kind of have a 3-step process for how they handle the job, and we prioritize them in this way. So the first thing we do when we're training a store attendant is we train them on customer service. The first day, it's the first thing we emphasize, and we tell them this is your number one priority. Mm-hmm. Now, you may be gasping a little and saying to yourself, whoa, but what about cleaning? Cleaning is everything. It's not. Customer service is everything. And this is how I like to compartmentalize it in my mind. Imagine you're a store full of customers. You're there to do your laundry. You need change. You need help with something. Something just happened. There's an accident in the store. Would you rather the customer address you as a human being first, or would you rather them look at you and ignore you and clean up the spill, clean up the mess? And so what we always tell our attendants is, if there's multiple people in the store and you're helping a human being with a human being problem, maybe the bathroom's locked or something like that, or they need change or something like that, would you rather have would you rather look around the room and see the person on duty serving an individual and not cleaning up the mess. But as soon as the individual is taken care of, then they shift directly to cleaning. And so that's how we train it. That's how we empower them. That's how we explain the responsibilities of the job. Is customer service is first. If somebody comes into a store and it's dirty, but they see the attendant sitting in the back room on their phone, obviously there's no excuse for that. If they come in and they see them helping 3 different people in a line at the counter and there's a little bit of something spilled on the floor, they understand that person just hasn't gotten to it yet. And of course, they can put you can quickly throw a caution sign out if it's, dangerous or something like that to keep people from hurting themselves. But that's how we train people: is customer service first, cleaning second, and drop off laundry third. Drop off laundry, the way they handle that is they stagger it in between, and we'll go into a little bit more detail here in a minute, but they stagger it in between the cleaning and the customer service. So obviously, if an attendant puts a drop-off order in a machine, they don't have to sit there and watch the washer tumble for 30 minutes. They can go clean and provide customer service after starting the machine, and then they can go back to it and move it to the dryer and then go back to cleaning and customer service. So they can stagger those responsibilities, but we feel it's very important for an attendant to understand what is their number one priority. If you leave it to them, a lot of times they're going to choose something different. And it might be chatting with their boyfriend on the phone, by the way. So anyway, hopefully that helps you a little bit there. We believe in being fully attended for that reason. We understand that not everybody can afford that.
Well, and I will say, so as I mentioned before, we do have one location that's open 24 hours, so it is not fully attended overnight. So what we do there, we don't get a ton of business overnight, but what we do have is a phone number posted that goes directly to a person that can help them. It's not just a recorded message or anything like that. So that's kind of how we handle that shift of not having an attendant on duty.
Yeah, there's always someone available. And the other thing we do for just refunds and things like that is we have refunds boxes in that, a refund box in that store. And if someone were to have a problem, they can just drop a refund slip in there. They can also call, and whoever they speak with can just Venmo them, or, if it's $1 or something, just, hey, do you have Venmo? Do you have Cash App? That kind of thing. Send you $1 real quick. But what we try to do is keep that person who's on call, try to keep that person from having to go up to the store. But at the end of the day, if it involves something that requires them going up to the store, that is their responsibility. That on-call person, if they have to, they will get out of bed at 3 a.m. We're just really not going to do that for things like, I lost 50 cents in this dryer or something like that. We're going to walk them through the process of, if you just move your clothes over to the next dryer over, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can do that in a self-serve operation too. And by the way, that's for the most part how we provided a pretty good level of customer service in our stores before we were fully attended, because we had very similar systems.
Would you like to make more money from your laundromat? Would you like those machines you're paying for to have more turns per day? Do you offer wash, dry, fold services or pickup and delivery laundry services? If not, would you like to? Whether you do or not, we have an amazing opportunity for you in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, you've probably heard about it, guys, but it's our wash, dry, fold, pickup and delivery workshop. And to answer your first question, yes, it is for drop-off laundry, wash, dry, fold, and pickup and delivery. So if you're doing any of those things, this workshop is going to help you tremendously. But the truth is, we were pretty so-so laundromat owners and so-so successful until we launched drop-off laundry and pickup and delivery. And being able to, what I call, optimize your laundromat to generate more profit and more revenue out of the existing facility, that's the key to taking your life from good to great, financially speaking, with laundromats. And that's what made us Laundromat Millionaires.
You don't have to just listen to us. Listen to what some of our past attendees have to say about our Wash, Dry, Fold, Pickup and Delivery workshop in Cincinnati, Ohio.
It was the best workshop I've attended in over 25 years. And what you guys have put together is nothing short of phenomenal. I think that you guys have put together both strategic and tactical systems that will make an individual who wants to own the laundromat profitable within months, not years.
Was the workshop worth the investment? Without a doubt, it was definitely worth the investment. So not only did we have 2 very packed days with Dave and Carla and their team, both in the classroom and touring the facilities, but we also came away with this extensive 100-page handbook. And then after the workshop was completed, I received a bunch of electronic performers and templates that we've been able to use since the workshop. Every day since the workshop, I've found myself referring back to either those electronic tools or the handbook that I received. So,
was it worth the investment? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I cannot say that enough. This was such a blessing, and I am so very grateful that Dave and Carla put this together and are sharing their knowledge and experience with others to have this to grow their business and to become more successful. Thank you, guys.
So are you interested? Go to laundromatmillionaire.com to learn more and see where you can register.
So now let's transition over to the phone calls. Any of you that have laundromats, you know that phone can ring off the hook some days. And many times it's junk calls, spam, robocalls, all that kind of thing. So what we have implemented is a phone tree program. Now we get ours through our local telephone company, but you can get the service. There's various providers online that you can find, or probably your own local phone service. But to explain what the phone tree program is you're familiar with it. It's basically a system where when someone calls in, they have options to select from. So, option 1, they go to, do they need to know hours or directions? Option 2, do they need to talk to a live person? You can have as many options as you want, but the big thing about this is by putting in those phone options, that phone tree program, it eliminates the robocalls and the scammers. So it's only your real customers that are reactively pressing a button of a choice that are getting through. Another thing, by putting things like those commonly asked questions, like what are your hours? What are the directions to your store? What is your location? What are your drop-off hours? Things like that. By putting that as a choice in there, you can give them an automated answer and then not take the time from your employee or your attendant. One thing I will talk about with the phone tree program, though, is always, always, always make one of the options to talk to a live person. I think that a lot of people get upset when they get these automated call choices and none of them are, I just want to talk to someone.
Yeah.
Give me a real body.
My goodness. Yeah, so this is an example of, okay, so she told you we use a phone tree program that kind of just may make sense in and of itself. Let me go a little bit deeper and show you kind of the art of how we use it. Maybe there's a better way, but these are the things that we've learned that work really well for us. One, implementing a phone tree system, as she mentioned, eliminates all of your automatic, what we call robocalls, those spam calls from computers. And if you have a phone and you don't have a phone tree system, you know what I'm talking about. Your attendants are running to the phone and answering the phone probably dozens of times a day at a minimum, hundreds of times a day possibly, only to answer the phone and say, Queen City Laundry, how may I help you? And hang up the phone. I mean, our attendants before our phone tree system did this dozens of times a day, sometimes dozens of times a shift. And it was very frustrating. So the first reason that we put these phone tree systems in was to eliminate that. That's just not a good use of anyone's time. It actually negatively affected their happiness in their job. They actually started to get irritated by the fact that they would have to do this, because we are very strict on if the phone rings, you answer it. I mean, unless you're dealing with an emergency, if the phone rings, you answer it, even if you have to put them on hold for a second. And so they get very frustrated when they rush across the store to grab the phone or something, or ask a customer to hold on, only to find out it's a robocall. So honestly, this 100% eliminates those, and it's an amazing thing. Now, the next step is, as you know, we have a pickup and delivery service. We have a pickup and delivery service, and we'll go into that in a second here, but our pickup and delivery service is branded the same, both Queen City Laundry, but we really don't want them calling the store for pickup and delivery needs. And so we have a separate receptionist off-site that handles those calls and screens them for us. Now, we'll go into that in a second, but option one, if they call the store, because we do have people that call the store, and we run our entire pickup and delivery operation out of one of our stores, but they don't know that. They don't care where the trucks are dispatched from. And so they'll call a different store because it's Queen City Laundry. So the first option on the phone tree at each of our stores is if you're calling for pickup and delivery, press 1. And when they press 1, we have a separate number, and we'll explain that in a moment, that handles all of our customer service calls.
For pickup and delivery.
Yeah, for pickup and delivery. So the first thing is get rid of the robocalls. The second thing is make your attendants as efficient as possible. And by the way, make your customers get the best level of quality customer service as possible, as quickly as possible. So the first option is if you're calling for pickup and delivery services, press 1, and it transferred to an off-site number, and we'll explain that in a minute. Option 2 is, as she mentioned, hours and location. So that will give the address. It'll say we're located next to or across the street from a particular restaurant or something like that, landmark. And then, of course, it gives the hours for that store. 3 of our 4 stores are open 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. And then, as she mentioned, 1 is open 24 hours a day.
Another option we have in there, so we have 1 is pickup and delivery, 2 is hours and location. Another thing we have is the services at that location.
Yep.
So some of our locations offer, they all offer drop-off and self-serve, but some also offer dry cleaning. And then we have one where the delivery is done as well. Also, it mentions kind of a brief overview of what size machines are there. So that's another option that we have in there. They can hear about the services offered at that facility. And then finally, there's the option to talk to the attendant.
Yeah, and that literally is, it's only option 4. So one thing we don't want to do is put them through 9 different options to get to the attendant. But the last one says if none of these solved your problems, press 4 to speak with an attendant or an employee in our store. They press that option, it goes directly to the store phone rings, and the attendant answers the phone. But the attendant isn't near as stressed, isn't as frustrated, isn't as irritated by the fact the phone's been ringing all day, because now they only answer the phone when all those other things have been taken care of. And so it has increased job satisfaction tremendously. It has made our attendants much more efficient. They're not near as frustrated. When they do answer the phone, they know the odds of it being a person that actually wants to speak to them and they can help is almost 100%. And so they answer the phone actually much more confident versus just like Queen City Laundry and hanging up from a robocall or Google calling or something like that. So I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's how we handle our in-store customer service. And in a minute, we're going to go over a few policies that we have that maybe help you a little bit as well. But we wanted to kind of go through the different silos of the different types of business we run, because our laundromats are full service. We have the pickup and delivery, we have the drop-off, we have the dry cleaning, and then we also have the self-serve business at our different locations. There's nothing better than free. Ever heard that before? Well, it's not true. You know what your laundromat customers like even better than free? It's fast. That's right, they want to save time more than they want to save money in most cases. They want to get in and out of your laundromat as fast as possible, and they'll pay more for that experience. We're proof of that here in Cincinnati. That's why we added HM Company drain troughs into our newest store in Cincinnati. While they may never know why, your customers will love that your washers all drain better and faster than with old school drain pipes. As if that wasn't enough, every HM drain trough is made in the USA, so they ship in only a few weeks, and everyone is custom made just for you and your project. If you want to provide your customers with a top of the industry experience in your store, then contact your distributor to order your HM Company drain trough today, or visit draintroughs.com.
So let's get into pickup and delivery. Before we go in depth, I do want to mention that with pickup and delivery, we haven't always done it in-house. And what we found was that lack of controlling the customer service was a real issue. And that's why we have kind of pulled this in-house. We do use a reception service to kind of weed out some of the easily answered questions. But we do, at the end of the day, all handle all of the issues, the real issues ourselves, and make sure that people are getting that quality customer service.
Yeah. So let's walk through this and what it looks like. First of all, if you're interested in the tool that we use for our receptionist offsite service, they are domestic. They are in the United United States. They all speak English. They're actually customer service professionals. So it's not. There are cheaper services if you go overseas and things like that, time differences and all, language barriers and all these different things. But at the end of the day, what was important to us wasn't necessarily the cheapest service in town. Which, by the way, it's really not that expensive.
No.
But we weren't trying to save $100. We were willing to spend a few hundred versus maybe 100 and get a high level of quality control and a high level of customer service. So the first thing is the service we use is in the domestic United States. And by the way, if you're interested in what that service is, go to our website.
It's at laundromatmillionaire.com/services. You can find links to the service that we use for customer service, as well as other links for other businesses that we use in our business.
Yeah, so as a side note, I don't know if you know, but we launched a new website recently, and we're still building out some of the pages, but the new website is launched. Let's say it's about 70% done. And one of those pages is the services that we refer. So these are companies that we use. So we don't refer any company that we don't use. There might be other companies that exist. On this page is specifically the companies that we use, we love, we're happy with, and they solve a problem for us. So with this particular reception service, if you want to know who that is, just go to our website, laundromatmillionaire.com/services, and it'll have all the lists actually. Okay, so let's break down what this service does, first of all. It's an off-site receptionist. They're professional customer service people, so they have very good people skills. They're not socially awkward. I mean, they are used to dealing with people. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, what does the service do? Well, this service can be elaborated and can grow into whatever you really want it to be. But what we use it for is very simplistic. What we're trying to do is we've learned in the pickup and delivery game specifically, about 80% of our calls are just simple questions like, what is your price? When do you pick up in my area? Those types of things. They just have a question. How do you charge by the pound? If you pick up today, when do I get it back? And yes, all these questions are answered on our website, by the way.
The frequently asked questions.
Frequently asked questions. But as we know, a lot of people still nowadays like to call in, which is fine. So what we wanted to do is kind of like the robocalls, we wanted to keep the things that are distracting our employees. We want to maximize their time. Our employees are well compensated, especially our GMs and assistant GMs. They're very well compensated. We want to make them as efficient as possible. They don't need to be answering the phone telling somebody what the price of something is when it's clearly on the website. But we also didn't want to send too much out of the company, if that makes sense. So the first thing we do is we set this up with people that have great people skills. We have a dashboard with this company, so you can set it up and customize it however you want. Yes, they answer the phone, Queen City Laundry, pickup and delivery, how may I help you today? And then the customer obviously should only be really calling if they're calling for pickup and delivery.
If they called our store, remember that was option 1. So it
Right.
takes them directly to this receptionist, and then they answer Queen City Laundry, pickup and delivery.
So from there, keep in mind that every person that answers the phone knows nothing about our business. So we have to make this as basic, as expedited, as quickly as possible, as efficient as possible, and give them the answers so that they don't look like a bozo. So they don't look like it's being outsourced. We want it to appear as if they are in our store or at least in a call center somewhere that is our call center. And so what happens is as they're answering the phone, these receptionists might answer the phone 1 minute for a plumber, next minute for an electrician, next minute for an HVAC company, and the next minute for Queen City Laundry. So when they answer the phone, the first thing they do, the only thing they do is they have a link. On their dashboard, they answer the phone, Queen City Laundry, pickup and delivery, how may I help you? And that goes, and then they click on the dashboard. The dashboard opens up and it has one link. There's only one thing they can do, and that is click on our frequently asked questions page on the delivery aspect of our business.
Yeah.
And so,
if you think about it, it's basically like our frequently asked questions is their script.
Yep.
So when they answer Queen City Laundry, pickup and delivery, how may I help you? If that customer has any question that is one of our frequently asked questions, they go directly to it. They read off the answer that we've provided for them to say. If that customer has another question that's on the FAQs, they click on that one. They read the script of what it is to say. But if that customer has a question that is not on our frequently asked questions, then
they're transferred, and they're transferred to the most valuable employees in our company, either our assistant GM or our GM. These are the ones that run our company. These are the ones that run our entire pickup and delivery business. They know everything that's happening at every minute of every day about the company. So the idea is to get questions answered, price, days of the week, those type of things. Anyone can answer those questions that has good people skills. That's the frequently asked questions. And by the way, the frequently asked questions, you want to keep that anywhere from like 6 to 10 at the most. So the 6 to 10 most commonly asked questions when people call in or email, you want to put on there, because otherwise, if you give them 20, they got to scroll through and find the answers. You want them to be able to pull it up quickly.
And if you want to see our frequently asked questions, you can go to queencitylaundry.com and click on the delivery tab.
Yep.
And there is a link right at the top that says frequently asked questions. So you can see what kind of script our reception service is using.
Yep, you can mimic exactly what we do if you want to. So take a look at that, maybe customize it to your own. Now, so the first thing is, by doing that, we've learned that we eliminate over 80% of the calls that actually would normally go to our GM or assistant GM. These people's time is very valuable. They don't need to be telling people what the price of something is and being on the phone all day. And if they have any other questions like, hey, I was supposed to get a pickup today and I didn't, or I got a pickup but I never got my laundry back. Where's my laundry? Things that are very important. Or you ruined a shirt of mine. Something needs to be escalated. Then the last option on the dashboard for the receptionist is simply to transfer the call. And so what they do is they say, I'm sorry, one moment, let me escalate your call to a manager on duty. Well, to the customer, that sounds like, hey, I'm really important, right? I want to speak with someone in charge here. And they say, oh, I can't help you with that, but let me transfer you to a manager on duty that can. And then you can set that up so they transfer in any order you want. Now for us, we have an assistant GM on duty all times. We have a GM on duty at all times. And then of course, I'm the third line of defense there, me, the owner. If you didn't have a GM or an assistant GM, or you had a manager, you could have them call that person first. You can set up what I call rules of engagement, and you essentially tell these companies how to handle the call. Now, what we do with our team is they call Carrie, our assistant GM, first. Now, when the receptionist calls Carrie, our GM, on her caller ID, it actually says the name of the company. And so she knows that call is an escalated call. It's an important call. And if she can answer the phone, she will. Now, the rules of engagement state, if Carrie doesn't answer the phone, then they are to call Marlene, which is our general manager. She runs the whole company. And she is also always available. It's part of her job description. And she will answer the phone. If she can't answer the phone, the next rule of engagement is for them to call me. And I will see on caller ID that it's our company coming, the caller service coming in, and they're going to escalate it to me. And I will take care of it. Now, if none of the three of us answer the phone, then they go back to the customer, and the rules of engagement, which are set up by us, again, by the way, is they will let them know that a manager is not available at this time, but if they can take their name and number, they will have someone call them back within an hour. Now, within that hour is our rules of engagement. You could make it 3 days, you could make it 5 minutes. But the way we look at it is between Carrie, Marlene, and myself, one of us should always be able to get back to anyone, especially if it's an important call, within an hour. So the next step is, let's assume no one can answer the phone, which we're all going to try to. It's a pretty high priority. Let's assume we're at the counter checking in someone, or at the doctor's office or whatever, can't answer the phone. Then they're going to go through those 3 rules of engagement. Then they're going to go back to the customer, take their information, and then they're going to text and email all 3 of us. So they text and email all 3 of us simultaneously, and it tells us the customer's name, phone number, what they were calling about, and contact information. And of course, it has a time and day stamp on it too. So we all 3 know that we have an hour. Now, the way it's handled internally is whoever can handle that first will text or email the other 2 people and say, hey, I've got Carla Menz. I'm calling Carla Menz back right now. That type of thing. And so the other 2 people know that we don't need to worry about this. Carrie has taken care of this. And then Carrie calls the customer, deals with it, and from there on, whoever calls the customer back, they are the champion of that issue. Now, if it drags on for several days, which we'll talk about in a minute, then that's, it might get handed off if they're off duty that day or something like that, or on vacation. But for the most part, 99.9% of these issues are resolved within an hour. So on any one week, we have anywhere from 500 to 700 pickups and drop-offs. And obviously there's a opportunity for something to go wrong with a pickup and a drop-off. So if we're doing 700 a week, that's roughly 1,400 times that we're rolling, 1,000 to 1,400 times that we're rolling a truck. Any one of those could create an issue. So that's how many times we roll the truck every week. 80% of the calls that come into our receptionist service, they screen out, which are simple questions. The ones that are escalated go to our most qualified and most valuable employees, most knowledgeable employees. They know where the trucks are. If they're not there, there's a reason. If something was, damaged, they know how to handle the situation, and we'll go into that in a moment. So the first thing is to take ownership, to simply, we believe in using tools, using technology, phone trees, those types of things. But what we don't believe is in hiding behind technology. So you'll notice in every aspect, our goal is to solve the problem as quickly as possible, as simple as possible, and yes, as cheap as possible. But
and give an option to talk to a person.
yes, always, 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 no matter what, the quick option, and once again, they don't have to go through 9 and jump through 10 hoops. The quick option is if you want to speak with a person, you can. So with a receptionist service, you're going to speak with a person that isn't actually an employee of ours, but they don't know that.
They sound like one.
They sound like one. They're very professional. They're somewhat knowledgeable. They just sound like an entry-level employee, but it needs to be advanced or promoted to a general manager, assistant GM. Then they can handle pretty much any. If they can't handle it, nobody can. So hopefully that makes sense for you.
So next, we're going to talk about some of our customer service policies, just some things that we've found that work well in our business. I will say, no matter what, you can't be perfect, but if you provide a high quality, consistent service, you will have less customer service issues to begin with. So it all starts with having a good business, providing good service on the front end, and then you don't have the issues on the back end. But specifically with our drop off and our pickup and delivery, probably one of the most frequent issues is a lost item. Not because we frequently lose items, not that we don't ever, but because sometimes people think they've sent something in and they didn't.
90%, 95%. Now, we all know this. I know our audience is laughing right now as they're driving down the road or watching this on YouTube or whatever, but we all know that 95% of the time they say, I sent in my favorite purple Nike hoodie and it never came back. We all know that that didn't actually ever come into the facility. Now, one thing I will say when it comes to this process is, the first thing we do is take ownership. So we never blame, we never insinuate, we never say, even though we know there's a 99% chance it didn't come in, we never say that, we never even act like that. First thing we do is apologize. We take responsibility and we say, we're going to start an investigation. And we explain to them what that means very quickly. We say, let me lay out for you what this looks like. First of all, let me be clear. If the investigation determines that we have lost or damaged this item, we will make this right. Now, we don't commit to what making this right looks like, but we want to assure them and make them confident that we take responsibility, we take this seriously, and that we will make this right at the end of the day. So what we ask that you do, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, is give us 3 days for the investigation. And in those 3 days, we actually have 16, or in our pickup and delivery facility, we actually have 32 high definition video cameras that record every aspect of your order being processed. We also do what we call ownership of the order, which means only one person handles your order. So we don't have to track it through an assembly line or a factory or anything like that. Only one person takes your laundry out of the bag and sorts it, washes it, dries it, folds it, and puts it back in another bag and on the shelf. So we only have to track your order and the person doing your order in the facility with 32 cameras. So we're able to do that pretty efficiently. One, that impresses the customer that we have that level of sophistication. Two, it reassures them that even if we did do something, we're going to make this right. So then from there, we ask them to give us 3 days for the investigation. We tell them we will review our cameras. We will check with by the way, we use the Sense technology and it tracks the system throughout the production process. So we know we can go right to Sense and tell who processed that order. We go right to that person and we say, do you remember a gray hoodie? Typically or purple hoodie, whatever it is. Typically every night, our attendants, depending on volume and size of orders, they'll only handle between 5 and maybe 8 or 10 at the most orders in one shift. So they usually remember, Dave Menz's laundry or whatever. So we'll go to them, we'll go to the cameras, we'll review everything. Now, what we ask the customer to do before we hang up the phone is we ask them during those 3 days, could you do us a favor? And just, it's probably not the case, but can you just take a look around your house? Maybe it didn't come in and you thought it did. It slid underneath a table. And basically all we do is we're like, that's probably not the case, but every once in a while this does happen. So since we're going to do our investigation over these 3 days anyways, we'll call you back as soon as we know something. If it's 20 minutes, we'll call you back in 20 minutes. But do us a favor. Check around the house. If it's your daughter's hoodie, make sure she didn't leave it in the trunk of her car, what have you. If you could just do your own little mini investigation, that'd help us too. And we'll get back to you within 3 days. If within 3 days you haven't found the item, and this is assuming it's lost, if you haven't found the item, and within 3 days we haven't found the item or found the problem, then once again, we're going to make this right. We never commit to what that looks like.
Yeah. So what we find is within those 3 days, often they locate the item.
She said often, almost 100% of the time.
But in the rare case, something did happen on our end. Usually by looking at the cameras, we can tell, oh, that got mixed into another order, got placed into the wrong bag. With those cameras, we can typically identify where that hoodie is and get it back to the person. And that's how we make it right. But if something happens where we can't find an item or we've damaged an item or whatever, and we do need to make it right, we do a full refund.
We do.
We do.
And so what that looks like, just so we're very, very clear here, is we're not just throwing piles of cash at people, okay? We're not idiots, and neither are you. What we do is at that point, we take ownership. We assure the customer, we want to make this right. Our investigation hasn't included anything. Sometimes we don't find it, and they don't find it either. A lot of times they do find it, and when we call them and leave them messages wanting to make it right, they won't call us back because they found it, but they're embarrassed. Sometimes they do call us and they're like, my bad, I found it. I feel terrible. You guys are awesome. Have a good day. Assuming the item is lost or if it's damaged, what we will do is ask them for full replacement value. And we'll kind of pin them down over the phone and say, do you know when you purchased this, how old it was? Do you remember what you paid for it, where you bought it, blah, 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 blah. And all we're really doing is looking to see, are they reasonable? That's our next line of defense is this person reasonable? By the way, before we call the customer back, we're going to look in Sense, or whatever system you use, and we're going to determine what is the lifetime value of this customer. We have customers that have been with us for 7 years doing weekly pickups, and their lifetime value to us might be $60,000, $70,000. We will give them whatever they want. Okay? We've been doing business with them that long. They've never asked for anything, or if they have, it's been one little sock missing here and there. By the way, we can see those things too in the software. We know what we're dealing with. If it's their first pickup, they sent in 10 pounds and they're wanting $600, we're not fools, right? So we will push back, but those are the exception beyond the exception. So I'm not even really going to address that here. That's just kind of, okay, this doesn't pass the gut test. This person is scamming me, and we will put our foot down at that point and just be like, absolutely, you are not being reasonable. We want to make this right, but this is not reasonable. Back to reasonable people. What we're going to do in that situation, we're going to ask them what they think it's worth. As long as we think that's reasonable, what we will ask them to do is go to the store, purchase that item again, and send us in the receipt. They can either email it to us, take a picture, whatever. Once we do that, we will have determined the amount. If that sweatshirt was $80, then we're going to ask them if it's okay if we just put an $80 credit on the account. Obviously, we all know that it's a lot cheaper for us to provide $80 in service than it is to send them a check for $80. Now, about 90% of the time, they're fine with that, especially if they're reasonable customers. So we will always try to issue them a credit. In fact, a lot of times we'll tell them, oh, the item was $80. If it's okay with you, I'm just going to put a $100 credit. If you're willing to accept a credit, I'll just put a $100 credit on your account just for the hassle and the inconvenience. We feel terrible. You've been a great customer. If their lifetime value is high enough, and this is up to the judgment of our GM, assistant GM, or myself, but what we will do in that situation is we will a lot of times just say, hey, we know the item's $80. Looks like you normally spend $150 with us a week. How about we just do your next order for free? We're not going to argue with them, okay? As long as they're reasonable, if they're a valuable customer, this passes the gut test, we're essentially going to take care of them. Even if they ask for double, if we think it's $150, they ask for $300. If we look them back and they've been doing business for 5 years and their lifetime value is $80,000, we're going to give them $300. You are insane if you don't, in my opinion. Now, are they taking you for $100, taking advantage a little bit? Maybe so, but it's the cost of doing business. Most people, 99.9%, are going to find the item. The ones that don't, or if something's damaged, obviously there's nothing to find. We're going to make it right. 99% of them are very reasonable people. And so we're just going to make it right. We made a mistake. We're going to do everything we can to make it right. So hopefully that helps you a little bit.
So those are some of our customer service policies that we've found to be very beneficial in retaining customers and keeping that customer satisfaction high. So really, that's an overall outline of our customer service, what we value, what we use, what tools we use. And once again, I just want to reiterate the value that we've found in keeping this in-house, keeping control of the customer service. We've used other programs that will take your customer service and they'll do it all for you. And we did not find much satisfaction going that route. We feel like we can provide a really high quality customer service experience using the training that we use in store for our attendants, using the phone tree to weed out a lot of the calls, but then with the option to always talk to a person, using the reception service for our pickup and delivery to answer those easy to answer questions, and then going directly from there to our assistant GM, or owner to make sure that that customer's question gets answered adequately. And then those policies we have in place, that 3-day wait has been a lifesaver.
Yeah, it's important in every aspect of our business, guys, to have SOPs. Now, full disclosure, early on, all of our SOPs have existed for years, but they were in my head or Marlene, my GM's head. Recently, in the last 4 years, we really documented all these things, got much more organized. And by the way, that's those SOPs, those processes, the services we use, the tools that we use, all those things. These are examples of things that we teach in our wash, dry, fold, pickup, and delivery workshop. By the way. And so you're getting kind of a little microcosm. Obviously, we go in more detail in the workshop, but you're getting a little microcosm of how we handle customer service, how we do these things, the relationships, the costs associated with these things. And by the way, the phone tree program that we use is roughly $80 a month per store. And that might sound expensive, but that includes our phone line, that includes voicemail, caller ID, that's our phone system, right? So it's roughly $80 a month. Could you get it for $10 a month? Maybe so. It's probably not going to be as involved and sophisticated as a system. The receptionist service, the way that works is it's based on how many minutes they're on the phone every month. So I know some of you are a little younger, but if you remember back to when cell phones first came out and we would buy like a bucket of minutes, I don't know if you remember that, you'd buy a bucket of 200 minutes a month. And if you went over, they'd charge you $8 a minute or something absolutely outrageous. It's kind of the same idea. The way the receptionist service works is you purchase a bucket of minutes based on how many minutes you think they will be on the phone. And yes, if they're on the phone with one person for 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes. And by the way, I mentioned the numbers, 500 to 700 pickups a week, 3,000 customers in the database. We're growing faster than we've ever grown before, thanks to our marketing company,
We have more
Laundromat.
like 6,000 customers in the database now.
Do we? Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not even up on the times. We have about 6,000 customers in the database nowadays, and we're growing faster than ever. So we get a lot of new customers calling in, wanting to know about price. It's not just our existing customers and pickups. And once again, about 80% of the time, those calls get screened by our receptionist service. Also remember that the most important calls go to our highest level employees so that we don't want to keep transferring them, okay? Some may argue that our phone tree system, our receptionist service are outsourcing. But to give you an idea, the receptionist service that we use, we purchase a bucket of like 250 minutes a month and we haven't went over yet. So with all those customers, I think it runs in the $300 to $400 a month range for a very high level of professional customer service. That's a month, by the way. Divide that into the week, divide that by the call, and think about the cost. It's roughly like 80 cents a minute or something like this for professionals to be on the phone. We have a decent sized pickup and delivery business here in Cincinnati. If you have business a third of that size or a half of that size, your cost should be less, much
You'll need less
than
minutes.
that. Yeah.
Should need.
And by the way, you have full access to the dashboard. So just like in the olden days, what you can also do is it's whatever bucket of minutes plan you have at the end of the billing cycle. And they track that in live time. So you can see who they talked to, what they were talking about, why they were on the phone for 5 or 10 minutes, or 1 minute it'll be a hang up or something like that. You can see all that in the dashboard, and it keeps a running tab. So at the end of the month, if you had a 250-minute plan and you were at 260 and the billing cycle was in 3 days, you just log into your account and change it to 300 minutes. And if you go up to the next highest bucket of minutes, it's obviously a lot cheaper on a per minute basis than going over your bucket of minutes. So if you remember the old cell phone plans, it's literally a mirror image of that, how they bill, as long as you just track it. And it's not that hard to track. So what it boils down to is, for a few $100 a month, we can provide a high level of customer service to all 4 of our stores. We can provide a high level of customer service for 5,000 to 6,000 pickup and delivery customers. We can screen 80% of our calls, and the most important calls that need to be escalated go to our most valuable employees who can solve the problem the first time, every time. And no one has more knowledge about the company and the industry than those employees. And that's what you want. You don't want your most valuable employees handling insignificant or less significant calls. And you definitely don't want it to go the other way as well. You don't want customers frustrated. Now, have we always done things this way? Absolutely not. These are things we've perfected in the last probably 3 years. We've kind of taken a journey to try different tools and resources. Some work better than others. Full disclosure, we try to shop a little bit less on price and a little bit more on quality, and then we just build those things into our business model. But if you can imagine, if you have a pretty big pickup and delivery business and you're providing customer service for the entire pickup and delivery business for just a few $100 a month, and by the way, I keep talking about percentages. Our GM and assistant GM, they answer the phone over 80% of the time when our receptionist calls in. So we don't call them back very often. And by the way, on a busy, crazy, slammed day like weather or a holiday closing or something like that, they might get 10 calls escalated to them throughout the day. Now, the average day, it's usually 2 to 4. So 2 to 4 calls a day come to them. They just go right to their cell phone. It'd be no different than if an attendant at another store had an escalation and needed to call them. Now, that's a part of their job, and so that's a big part of their responsibility, is handling these things. But even if these calls, even if you didn't have the team that we have, and these calls just went directly to the owner, let's say you had one store, let's say you had a pickup and delivery business that was, 1/5 of our size or something, it wouldn't have, your phone's not going to ring off the hook all day. But if you're not using these tools and these resources and spending a couple $100 on them, your customers are probably getting a poorer experience. And obviously, keep in mind, you're probably frustrated as all get out. Your phone's probably ringing nonstop. So we're big fans of utilizing tools and technology, but not hiding behind them, taking ownership, being a champion of this process, and being committed to providing a high level of customer service. Now, when I say that in a coaching call, or I say that at a workshop or a conference or something, without context, it sounds like we must have 2 full-time employees that do nothing but customer service, and they must cost us $60,000 a year if they're cheap. And that's just not the case at all. We're spending a few $1,000s a year.
I will say at one point we did, when we first started it, we weren't sure how many calls would get escalated from the reception service. And we did think about hiring someone to work from home and just be the escalation person, basically, the go-to call, so that our assistant GM and our GM weren't fielding a lot of calls. But we haven't had to do that. So many of the calls get weeded out by the reception service. Like he said, a normal day, 2 to 4 calls actually get escalated to our managers. So, and again, if you do want to look at the service that we use specifically, you can go to our website, laundromatmillionaire.com/services, and it has a link to their page, as well as some of the other service providers we use across the industry in our businesses.
Yep. And before we let you go today, just want to let you know we're going to continue to build that out. So hopefully you're excited about that. We're providing more and more resources, more and more partnerships. I know we've talked about Launder Boost a lot. That's something that's going amazingly. We have 50, 60 new clients at this point in a matter of a few months. So if that's one of you, you're a rock star. Thank you for trusting us. Our team is escalating at a high level and just getting amazing results regarding that. But we have a lot more that's coming, guys. On that services page over the next, 6 months to a year, we're going to make many new partnerships. Some of them are in negotiation right now.
We're hoping for discounts.
Yes,
So we can give you discounts.
Yeah, that's the goal with the services page, just so you understand, we'll hit on this real quickly. The services page is we want to give you the companies and services that we do business with. We have vetted them. We use them personally. We vouch for them. If we didn't, we wouldn't, right? Then we want to do is take the leverage of the Laundromat Millionaire platform, which we're able to do more and more every day, and negotiate on behalf of the community. If we tell them, hey, we have a podcast that has 7,000 people, and if you give everybody a 10% discount, we'll put you on our services page, and we'll let them know that we use this service, and hopefully, 2% of you will end up using that service. And so they make, it's worth it to them to give the community a discount. So I'm sure you're familiar with the power of leveraging and unions and all these different things. That's what we're trying to do, but we're not trying to put it behind a paywall. We're not trying to put it in a situation where you have to have a membership or something like that. It's just available for everyone, every independent laundromat owner in the community. So we're not charging for it. They're right there available for you. Some of these companies will give us a discount. Some of them will not. Some of them are so big that we don't move the needle. But we're actually more and more every day as we get more publicity for the Laundromat Millionaire platform and our story, and as our podcast grows and things like that, we have more leverage. Our email list grows, things like this. We have more leverage with these different companies, and we reach out to them, and sometimes they reach out to us, and we'll partner with them. So stick around, check out our new website. We hope you like it. We invested heavily in time and money in that to take this platform to another level. And we think over the next year or two, you're going to see some pretty monumental things happening. We're very excited.
All right. Well, that's it for today. Take care. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.